This is 1360 AM. WNJC, Washington Township, Philadelphia. Philadelphia's Renaissance radio station. Brought to you from Forsyth Broadcasting. Or listen to us at WNJCradio.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. EnjoyAbaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
EnjoyAbaco.com.
Hello, I'm Reverend Carl Kelly, and I head up the Frederick Douglass Foundation of Indiana. President Obama's attacks on the Constitution continues to be aided and abetted by one of his trusted allies in Congress, ultra-liberal Democrat Andre Carson of Indianapolis, nationally known for his infamous racial rants against the Tea Party. I want to tell you about J.D. Manier. J.D. will be a representative for the people of the 7th District. J.D. Manier is a pro-growth Reagan conservative and is co-host of the conservative Commandos Radio show. He is asking you to join his army of supporters in order to defeat Carson and go to Washington to demand special prosecutors for Benghazi, the IRS, and other scandals. J.D. is interested in what's good for the people of the 7th District, not Nancy Pelosi. He will promote strong economic growth and jobs by getting the government off the backs of the people, voting for tax cuts and slashing regulations. Help elect a pro-life defender of freedom who will strongly support Israel, vote to cut wasteful spending, and battle to repeal Obama's socialist agenda. Log on to ManierForCongress.com and donate today. That's MINIEAR for Congress.com. Paid for and authorized by the J.D. Manier for Congress Committee.
I'm J.D. Manier, candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives, Indiana District 7, and I approve of this message.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360 and WIFI 1460. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome, everybody, and welcome, fellow patriots, and welcome once again to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader, coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, and of course around the world on the Internet. I'd like to welcome you to the show today. We do have a very interesting show lined up for you, and joining me as my co-host du jour is Sharon Engel. Sharon, welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Thank you so much, Rick. It's a little different for me to be on with you on Tuesdays. Usually it's Thursdays, but our usual co-host is out of pocket today.
Yep.
Sam Rohr.
Sam Rohr's out doing something. I guess he's also looking for that network of safe houses that I look for every Monday afternoon when I'm not here on the Conservative Commandos radio show. But it's great for you to pinch hit today, Sharon Engel. Always great to work with you.
Thanks, Rick. And, of course, it was exciting when we were at CPAC, so we've been doing a lot of those interviews that we had there on our show, and I know that I've enjoyed listening to what we did during that time and listening to those great guests that we had.
Yeah, that was fun. It was a great experience. It was a great experience working with all the Conservative Commandos in one spot for a change, rather than me being on the East Coast, you being on the West Coast, John Mosley down in the Caribbean, and, Sam Rohr in Pennsylvania and up in North Jersey, and just people all over the place. So it was great to all work together under one roof at one table. So that was a lot of fun down at CPAC. And, of course,
right.
our table at Radio Row had more activity at it than any other radio show there, so that was also fun. It's always fun to go to CPAC and for others to see us in action and for them to ask the question, who are you guys? Well, we are the Conservative Commandos. That's who we are. Well, Sharon, we do have a great lineup of guests for our listeners today, and who are you going to be speaking with?
Well, I'm going to be speaking with Bridget Johnson of PJ Media, and we're going to be talking about the Crimea. Of course, that's been just a huge topic. One of those topics, I guess, that the Democrats would rather not talk about, but if they have the choice between that and Obamacare, the media would much more like to concentrate on the Crimea than they would on the failures of Obamacare. So it's interesting how we change subjects there.
Yeah.
And then I'm also going to be interviewing Michael Chapman of CNS News, and he's going to be talking about the debt of the Postal Service. Now, most of us have walked into the post office and realized that we're getting pretty near 50 cents a letter.
Yes.
And how can they be in debt when we're paying $0.50 every time we mail something out? And yet this debt just keeps going up and up. So that's going to be interesting to find out why it's in debt, what we're subsidizing here, and possibly what can be done, if there is anything that can be done.
Yeah, I say let Walmart take over the post office. That's my answer. And, also, you talk about the failures of the Obama administration with Obamacare, Sharon. I think that what is happening in the Ukraine and in the Crimea is another failure of the Obama administration. Hopefully the mainstream media is going to realize that at some point or not. I doubt that they will. But we're also going to be speaking with Steve Bucci. Steve is a graduate from the United States Military Academy, and he's also working with the Heritage Foundation. And Steve is going to be joining us to talk about a blog that came out of the Heritage Foundation's foundry about the Department of Homeland Security Chief, Jet Johnson, confirms that there's an inflation of the deportation numbers that has been spun through Washington and the Obama administration over the past 5 years. You know, I got to be honest with you, Sharon, there's been something that I have not understood about Obama. And usually when there's something that I don't understand about this administration, usually when the answer comes true or comes forward, it's not a very good one. And for years now, we all have known that he is for giving millions of people that broke our laws, broke our borders, and came here illegally. He wants to give them amnesty. But what has always puzzled me was the reports how deportation is up in the Obama administration, how Obama is sending these people back that are here illegally. And come to find out, Sharon Engel, it's all a ruse. It's just more shifting numbers around. So we're going to discuss that with Steve Bucci at a little later on this afternoon. So Sharon Engel, around this time of the day when we do work together as co-hosts, I ask you, what's on your radar screen this week, my friend?
Well, always on the radar is Obamacare. This was an interesting thing. We did a health fair that was sponsored by some of the news media down in Las Vegas, and the health fair was to sign up folks for Obamacare on our state exchange. Well, as all of the listeners know, we're trying to get rid of our exchange as part of what we can do to get it on the ballot, let the voters vote. But as part of what we can do to say we don't like Obamacare, we don't want it in our state, and we want to get rid of it. We're going to go to the voters and ask them to put it into our Constitution that we don't have any kind of government-run healthcare exchanges in the state of Nevada. So we were there just as the friendly opposition. If you want to sign up for Obamacare, you might actually want to sign up and say, we don't like it. Well, the interesting part of it was that no one, and I mean this was zero, zilch, nada, no one showed up to sign up for Obamacare at that health fair.
Really?
No one. And our table was busy all day long signing that petition to get rid of Obamacare. That, to me, was so telling. And the news media, probably the first time they ever thanked Sharon Engel, but they were thanking me so much for bringing our folks in to sign the petition. Otherwise, the health fair would have been a complete flop.
Wow. Now, Sharon, paint the picture for me. Where was this held?
It was held at the YMCA in North Las Vegas. So it was a completely neutral place where the media had set it up. They had been advertising it for over 3 weeks. Come in, sign up for Obamacare, come in, speak to independent insurance agents who can help you navigate through, come in and listen to speakers. They even had a navigator talking about how you could get signed up. And they had all kinds of speakers lined up to just help you get the insurance that you need.
Did you take pictures? Did you take video?
Yes, we did. In fact, we took a lot of video. The folks that came in to sign our petition were some of those liars and actors that Harry Reid had said the Obamacare victims are all liars and actors. Well, they came in to talk about their situation, and we got them on film as well, talking about why they wanted to sign that petition and how Obamacare has already hurt them. There was a girl, and I say girl because she was in her early 20s, that has cystic fibrosis, and she was on insurance, and because of Obamacare, they dropped her and told her to go get signed up.
Wow, that is extremely...
So that's one of the videos that we'll have coming forth. We had others as well, but I was interested in the diversity that we had signing up against Obamacare, saying we want this repealed, and saying thank you very much, Sharon Engel, for bringing this forward. And we had blacks, Hispanics, older, younger. It just didn't matter. All different kinds of Americans were there to say, oh, we don't want this. No,
wow.
Not here, not now.
That is so interesting, Sharon, with all the money that's being spent to promote this. But, Sharon, we are going to have to take a little break, and you're listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Sharon Engel and Rick Trader. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station, and, of course, around the world on the Internet via our Internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. Please don't go away, Sharon, and I'll be right back.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. EnjoyAbaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
EnjoyAbaco.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's Conservative Commandos radio show at 10:10 this evening, please go to www.patriotsride.org. At 5 p.m. this evening, right as we're going off the air, switch over to CPRWorldwideMedia.com, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, and you can hear a rebroadcast of yesterday's show. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show tomorrow afternoon, the place for that is VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And please check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioshow.com and CCRShow.com. Two different sites, different information on each one of them. I'm joined today by my co-host du jour, and that is Sharon Angle. Sharon usually joins me on Thursday, but is joining me today. Hey, Sharon, do you ever read the letters to the editor in the newspapers?
Of course, I think they're the most interesting. If you have a newspaper that will actually print anyone's opinion, and we actually do that kind of news here in Nevada. They're not too open when it comes to reporting, but they are open to the opinion page. They generally will print anybody's letter. So it's kind of nice to get a pulse on what's going on out there just by reading those letters to the editor.
Well, a Facebook friend of mine who knows that I like this kind of thing sent a letter to me today. Thank you, Larry Beversluis. And it was a letter to an editor from the Waco Tribune-Herald in Waco, Texas. I don't have the young lady's name, but it was a 21-year-old female who gets it. And she kind of wrote a letter, Sharon Angle, that, gee, if I didn't know better, I might have thought I wrote myself. But her letter starts out, "Put me in charge. Put me in charge of food stamps, and I'll get rid of Lone Star cards. No cash for ding-dongs or ho-hos, just money for 50-pound bags of rice and beans, blocks of cheese, and all the powdered milk you can haul away. If you want steak and frozen pizza, then get a job. Put me in charge of Medicaid. The first thing that I would do is get women on Norplant birth control implants or tubal ligations. Then we'll test recipients for drugs, alcohol, and nicotine. And if you want to reproduce or use drugs, alcohol, or smoke, then get a job. Put me in charge of government housing. Have you ever lived in a military barracks? You will maintain our property in a clean and good state of repair. Your, quote, home will be subject to inspections anytime, and possessions will be inventoried. If you want a plasma TV or an Xbox 360, then get a job, and you can own the place. In addition, you will either present a check stub from a job each week, or you'll report to a government job. It may be cleaning the roadways of trash, painting or repairing public housing, whatever we will find for you. We will sell your 22-inch rims, your low-profile tires, and your blasting stereo and speakers, and put that money towards the common good. And before you write that I've violated someone's rights, realize that all the above is voluntary. And if you want our money, you then must accept our rules. Before you say that this would be demeaning and ruin their self-esteem, consider that it wasn't that long ago that taking someone else's money for doing absolutely nothing was demeaning and lowering self-esteem. If you had to pay for others' mistakes, let me correct that. If we are expected to pay for others' mistakes, we should at least attempt to make them learn from their bad choices. The current system rewards them for continuing to make those bad choices. And while you are on government subsidies, you no longer can vote. Yes, that's correct. For you to vote would be a conflict of interest. You will voluntarily remove yourself from voting while you are receiving a government welfare check. If you want to vote, than get a job. So Sharon Angle, sound like something I would write?
Yeah, get a job.
Get a job.
Get a job. How old was this person?
Doesn't have her name, but it's reputed to be written by a 21-year-old young lady.
Oh, my faith is restored. You know, it's great when you hear that folks who are coming into the workplace now and have grown up under this regime that we're under are finally getting it, and they're speaking out. Not only do they understand what's happening, but they're speaking out and saying, "This can't go on anymore. We're having to do this in a way that we have to speak out and be part of the solution ourselves."
I agree, Sharon, and you know, I say to young people everywhere, just as a reminder that you are in my will. You are going to inherit the $50 million or $50,000 of debt that every American, including yours truly, owns, that I won't live long enough to ever be able to repay that debt, but you are in my will and you are going to inherit that. You're going to inherit that, my young friends, like Mr. John Forsyth Jr., who does a great job working the boards right beside me here. But it's a crying shame what we're doing to our future generation, Sharon. We're borrowing money. And we're putting mortgages on everything. And that debt is going to have to be paid back, and it's going to be paid back by people who are younger than us. And it's not fair what this government is doing to them.
No, it isn't. But, you know, I do get a lot of encouragement from what we saw.
Hello, Sharon? All right. Wonders of modern cell phone technology. John, let's go to a break now. Let's go to a break, and then we'll get back up with Sharon. You are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show. At least with Rick Trader, Sharon Angle, something happened to her. Wonders of cell phone technology. Well, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station, and of course around the world on the internet. And hey, check out our internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. There you'll find the Conservative Commandos radio show. Please listen to our rebroadcast. Sharon and I will be right back.
They say I'm nasty, but What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the Sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
Hello, I'm Reverend Carl Kelly, and I head up the Frederick Douglass Foundation of Indiana. President Obama's attacks on the Constitution continues to be aided and abetted by one of his trusted allies in Congress, ultra-liberal Democrat Andre Carson of Indianapolis, nationally known for his infamous racial rants against the Tea Party. I want to tell you about J.D. Manier. J.D. will be a representative for the people of the 7th District. J.D. Manier is a pro-growth Reagan conservative and is co-host of the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. He is asking you to join his army of supporters in order to defeat Carson and go to Washington to demand special prosecutors for Benghazi, the IRS, and other scandals. JD is interested in what's good for the people of the 7th District, not Nancy Pelosi. He will promote strong economic growth and jobs by getting the government off the backs of the people, voting for tax cuts and slashing regulations. Help elect a pro-life defender of freedom who will strongly support Israel, vote to cut wasteful spending, and battle to repeal Obama's socialist agenda. Log on to ManierForCongress.com and donate today. That's MINIEAR for Congress.com. Paid for and authorized by the J.D. Manier for Congress Committee.
I'm J.D. Manier, candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives, Indiana District 7, and I approve of this message.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And this is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Sharon Engel and Rick Trader. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 10:10 this evening, please go to patriotsride.org. At 5 p.m., right when we go off our live broadcast, switch over to cprworldwidemedia.com for a rebroadcast of yesterday's show. And tomorrow afternoon, you can hear a rebroadcast of today's show at vigilantlibertyradio.us. But Sharon Engel, we do have our first guest of the day with us, and please make the introduction.
Yes, I would be honored to make the introduction of Bridget Johnson, who is a career journalist whose news articles and opinion columns have run in dozens of news outlets across the globe. Bridget first came to Washington to be online editor at The Hill, where she wrote the World from the Hill column on foreign policy. Previously, she was an opinion writer and editorial board member at the Rocky Mountain News and the Nation World News columnist at the Los Angeles Daily News. She's contributed to USA Today, the Wall Street Journal, National Review Online, Politico, and more, and has a myriad of television and radio credits as a commentator. Bridget is Washington editor for PJ Media. Bridget, welcome back to Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Excuse my voice, I'm still getting over the CPAC plague, as I call it. So.
Well, we're glad that you were able to be on with us today and that your voice is coming back. We wanted to talk to you a little bit about this Crimea landslide vote. You wrote an article about that for the PJ Tattler, and perhaps you could kind of get us up to speed a little bit about what is happening in the Crimea, and just give us kind of a geography lesson, if you will, just a little overview of the Crimea, Ukraine, Russia, what this is all about, and then go into the vote.
Sure. Well, the easiest way to kind of start at the beginning is to just realize what an ultra-nationalist Vladimir Putin is. He has always wanted Russia to have that same sort of superpower status that it had under the Soviet Union. So part of that is kind of this irritation that you have these Soviet states these former Soviet states that when they broke off, not only did they start doing okay on their own, but have decided to draw closer to Europe. He wants these states to stay close to Russia, to be dependent on Moscow, to be basically part of the fold. So the protests in Ukraine started more than 3 months ago over the fact that Viktor Yanukovych, the president, had this deal going that was going to bring Ukraine closer to Europe economically, and Russia stepped in with a $15 billion bribe, and he backed off from the European deal and acquiesced to Putin. So that's when we saw, these very, democracy-loving people pour out into the streets. And one of the people who was leading the protest was former heavyweight boxer Vitaly Klitschko, whom I interviewed in 2008 when he was running for mayor of Kiev. And his experience was that, he grew up seeing how the Soviet state worked. And as a result, he's very anti-communist and said, we want, democracy for our people. We want corruption out of the government, and we want an economy that blossoms. So that's what these people were protesting for. And that is why Yanukovych, when he cracked down on these protesters and sent snipers to rooftops and started taking people out with shots to the head and neck. And so we saw dozens of people killed before Yanukovych fled the city. That was after his own party turned against him in Parliament, and they passed the legal measures necessary to move forward without him. So he went to Russia, and he had a nice safe haven there with Putin. And Putin responded by sending troops with no insignia on their uniforms, and they still don't have insignias, so I guess we're all tricked, into the Crimean Peninsula, where 60% of people there are Russian. It's kind of made out in the news that it's all Russian, but it's not. And these are people who speak Russian at home, but, it's not like they're not intermingled, with Ukrainians and their families, etc. You also have the Crimean Tatars, who make up about 10 to 12% of the population, and these are, very, very old-school indigenous group in the area who were driven into that peninsula back in the days of Stalin. And so Putin's acquisition of the Crimea was then supposed to be made official by this referendum that we saw last weekend. It was very hastily pulled together. You had paper ballots. They had 2 check boxes on them, and neither of those check boxes gave people the option to remain with the status quo and stay part of Ukraine. The first option was to join Russia. The second option was to revert back to a 1992 stopgap constitution that was passed after the dissolution of the Soviet Union that would allow the Crimean parliament to vote to become part of Russia, which would have happened anyway. So both of the check boxes on that ballot were essentially for joining Russia. News crews who were covering the ballots down there, they reported that people showed up who weren't on the voter rolls. They let them vote anyways. People were dropping multiple ballots into the boxes, and not surprisingly, the results were announced before there was time to count everything.
If Bridget and Sharon, if I could jump in for a minute, sounds like a vote that happens in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, actually.
I knew you guys were going to say something.
Sorry, Sharon, I'll let you continue.
No, I was listening in awe of myself because, we've seen this kind of thing come up in our own elections here, and it's just outrageous to see them stack the ballot box, and this was just, as you point out in your article, blatant stacking, and yet the outrage that has been expressed from our country is a little bit disconcerting. Can you kind of discuss, you talk about Jay Carney making his statement, so what is the administration's response to all that's gone on there?
Well, they're definitely getting pressure from Congress to take a firm line against this. One of the things that Russia did in retaliation to Obama's kind of odd sanctions on 7 people yesterday was they put sanctions on Senator Dick Durbin. And he was like, hey, my grandparents are Lithuanian. They'd be proud, that I have sanctions on me now from Moscow. But after Obama passed these sanctions, which were basically targeting some specific individuals, some aides of Putin, some people in the Duma, their parliament, some Crimean leaders, he got tweets in return from, for example, the deputy prime minister tweets him, and he's like, hey, Comrade Obama, I don't have any assets in the U.S. How do you think this is going to hurt me? So the administration was being openly mocked on Twitter by these Russians who were targeted, and Obama has promised that, we'll go tougher and tougher with sanctions.
Well, once again, Bridget, I'm sorry I have to jump in, but I often mock the Obama administration on Twitter myself, so I guess they're in good company.
Let's just hope that's where your commonalities stop with the Kremlin. Yeah, because it's definitely a throwback Soviet era going on there. But one of the great problems that I wrote about last night is this is basically brewing to be the perfect storm for the White House right now, because they have a chemical weapons to Syria that has a deadline for removal of all weapons by June 30th. They have a 6-month interim nuclear deal with Iran, which is supposed to end on July 20th with a final deal. And these are both allies of Vladimir Putin. Bashar Assad, for example, Russia is his number 1 arms supplier. And the ties with Iran are getting so cozy that they're getting together to work on cyber warfare programs together. So while the world's attention is diverted away by Putin's invasion of Ukraine and his annexation of the Crimea Peninsula, his most nefarious allies are basically going to get out of jail free card, and those deals are going.
We're talking with Bridget Johnson of PJ Media here on Conservative Commandos Radio Show. Bridget, can you stay through the break with us to our conversation on the Crimea?
Sure, no problem.
That's great. We're inviting you back after this short break to be with us here on Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Bridget Johnson, our guest. And we're here at WNJC 1360 downtown Philadelphia and across the Internet. We'll be right back after this message.
They say I'm crazy, I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water, Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's A-B-A-C-O. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back, everybody, and welcome back, fellow patriots. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Sharon Engel and Rick Trader, coming to you from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia and around the world on our internet partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. Our guest this segment is Bridget Johnson, and she's with PJ Media, and we're discussing her article that appeared on PJ Tadler, White House protests Crimea landslide vote while Kremlin hints at protecting more Russian territory. Bridget, thanks for holding through the break.
No problem.
Bridget, in your article, you point out that the Kremlin has had conversations between Putin and German Chancellor Angela Merkel on the phone, and there are ominous hints that Russia might be moving on more Ukraine territory under the guise of protecting ethnic Russians. You know, Bridget, there's a lot of Russians that are in Brooklyn. And I see this as a major foreign policy failure of the Obama administration. When I say that there are a lot of Russians in Brooklyn, there are a lot of Russians in other parts of Europe and Asia that are not under the Russian Federation. How far can this go? Could it make it all the way to Brooklyn?
Well, and Russia has been coddled from the start with this whole reset button business. And then, of course, you know, one of the huge problems, too, is that Obama has been trying to rely on Russia to achieve some of his other foreign policy objectives. And we're talking, you know, of course, about Iran and Syria here. And so you're basically putting so many of your eggs in one basket by even taking a chance at being able to trust the Kremlin on something. And so Putin, you know, he moves his forces towards the Ukraine border, says that he's just conducting military exercises, you know, like basically right across the border from Ukraine. And, you know, like you said was in the article, then he hints at the fact that well, there might be some more, you know, oppressed, you know, you people in eastern Ukraine that I could move in on. And he said in his speech this morning to Parliament that Kiev is part of Mother Russia. So all of these things coming from him, and it's just night and day, too, when you see the releases from the White House and from the Kremlin of the same phone conversation that happened between Obama and Putin, just how divergently different they are now. And but Angela Merkel, though, she is probably one of the most likely people to be able to get through to Putin in some way. It's not that they like each other at all, but he respects her because she's been tough. We know that the Russians, they respect toughness. They respected Reagan. There's a famous incident some years ago where...
So, Bridget, I got to stop you here. I'm sorry to interrupt. Does that mean that Putin does not respect Obama?
Not as far as he could throw him. But then again, he does judo, so I guess he could throw him. But
And Obama's kind of a skinny guy. Bridget, could we all agree that this was a major foreign policy failure of the Obama administration and of this State Department? But one question that I had for you, the vote that was taken, was it constitutional under the Ukraine Constitution?
No, it was not.
Okay. And of course we know that...
That's what Obama's leaning on to say, so we don't believe it's constitutional.
So who's going to stop Putin?
That's a very excellent question.
Sanctions, can we also all agree that sanctions never work, no matter where they're trying? I mean, my gosh, we've had sanctions against Cuba for 50 years, but they're still down there, right off of our, 90 miles from Florida. We've tried sanctions. Oh, my gosh. Where haven't we tried sanctions? And tell me where the sanctions have worked.
And those just provoke war fervor with Putin, just to put it bluntly. For every action that we throw in his direction, we're going to get an equal or greater reaction. Yes, when we've passed sanctions in the past, we passed something called the Magnitsky Act, and that was named after a human rights lawyer who had uncovered corruption. He was a tax lawyer who uncovered corruption in the government on a mass scale. He was arrested and he died in prison. So then we enacted these human rights sanctions. They had to go through Congress. They were not appreciated by the administration. The administration did not want to rile up Putin. But you had both Republicans and Democrats in Congress who pushed these through on a veto-proof majority. And that basically sanctions people who were attached to that case, with the prison system and the police system, etc. But in retaliation to that, Russia slapped similar and greater sanctions on some of our people. So they're ready to play the sanctions game. They have been discussing with Iran a deal that would get them that would help Iran as far as taking 500 million barrels of oil off their hands each day to be able to make sure that they don't have to rely on whether or not the U.S. wants to place sanctions on them. So that they're making sure that they have their nefarious deals laid out with nefarious regimes to be able to counter anything that Washington wants to do. We really painted ourselves into a really, really dark corner on this one.
Well, and I think that Putin is just laughing, isn't he? I mean, I heard that he said he was just going to sanction the members of our Senate.
Yeah, he's already done some of them. And it's definitely being taken with amusement by him. The reason why I mentioned, why he respects Angela Merkel's toughness earlier, one of the things that he did in a meeting with her was, she's really afraid of dogs from having some sort of incident when she was a kid. And so he had this, big, mean-looking black dog, and he had it sitting there just feet from her, looking up at her during the entire meeting. But she kept her cool, she kept her composure, she didn't say anything about it, and she just looked at Putin and she laid out her demands. So he respects toughness. He gets it from her. He doesn't get it from us. We still just have Joe Biden going over to Ukraine and doing all the dealing. So it's just a weak position that we find ourselves in.
Now, you mentioned Angela Merkel, and she's going to be the strong negotiator in all of this, what is her proposal to stop Putin? Because obviously, just because he's laughing at us and our leader is weak doesn't make him the good guy in this situation, nor someone that we should be allowing to do what he's being allowed to do. So what is Angela Merkel looking at as far as leading out to do something that will stop what Putin's doing?
Well, one of the things is bringing all of the former Soviet states fully into the European economic fold, bringing them into NATO, bringing them into both the economic and the defense alliances. That would be a huge first step. That's one of those things that takes years and years and years, and some of those countries have been trudging through their applications, but it's something that they could start moving on now.
Well, we've been talking here with Bridget Johnson of PJ Media. Bridget, if people want to know more about what's going on in the Crimea, specifically from the articles that you've written, where would they go?
Well, they can come to pjmedia.com. They can follow me on Twitter at Bridget_PJM. I'm always doing a lot of stuff, especially lately from Ukraine and the missing Malaysia flight. So hopefully they'll stop on by and get the news.
Hey, Bridget, before we let you go, something else that was in your article that I found interesting, coming from John McCain. John McCain called Russia. Russia is a gas station masquerading as a country, but that gas station just happens to have nuclear weapons in its fuel tank. So this is dangerous stuff. And also, I wanted to get your reaction real quick, if we couldn't, in a last minute that we have here, is your reaction to one of the Russian TV hosts saying that that Russia could turn us all into a pile of nuclear dust. Where'd that come from?
Well, and of course the bear is huffing really heavily right now, as you can think of Russia. But that danger, I should remind everyone, also rests in what they could give to our enemies and not do ourselves, or not do themselves. And I'm talking terrorists as well as bad states. Great point.
Bridget Johnson, I want to thank you so much for joining us. And again, we've been speaking with Bridget Johnson of PJ Media. Check out her article. She's one of the really, truly insightful writers from PJ Media and elsewhere. And Bridget, we want to thank you for joining us again here on the Conservative Commandos radio show. Always appreciate your time.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, guys.
All right. Thank you. All right. Sharon Engel, this is very dangerous times. We have been very lucky for 5 years during the first part of this administration that we have not gotten our nose in such a mess as we have now with the true foreign power. This is scary stuff here.
Well, it reminds me so much of the Cold War that was going on when we were kids. So maybe you're younger than I am, Rick, but I remember in the 60s when the Cuban crisis was going on, and how much Russia was feared by us, and the nuclear arms race that was going on during that time, and just how to deal with the Russians. It was always on the front burner, if you will, of the news. How were we going to deal with them as far as keeping our sovereignty and the sovereignty of our allies, because the Russians were obviously territorial. They were expanding their territories, and we were always trying to stop that. Well, Reagan stopped it.
Yeah, and
the breakup of the Soviet Union, and they really haven't been a threat until right now. Now we're right back in the soup, it seems.
Sharon, got to go to a break. You're listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Engel and Rick Trader. Please don't go away. We'll be right back.
They say I'm nasty, but
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's A-B-A-C-O. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
Hello, I'm Reverend Carl Kelly, and I head up the Frederick Douglass Foundation. President Obama's attacks on the Constitution continues to be aided and abetted by one of his trusted allies in Congress, ultra-liberal Democrat Andre Carson of Indianapolis, nationally known for his infamous racial rants against the Tea Party. I want to tell you about J.D. Manier. J.D. will be a representative for the people of the 7th District. J.D. Manier is a pro-growth Reagan conservative and is co-host of the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. He is asking you to join his army of supporters in order to defeat Carson and go to Washington to demand special prosecutors for Benghazi, the IRS, and other scandals. J.D. is interested in what's good for the people of the 7th District, not Nancy Pelosi. He will promote strong economic growth and jobs by getting the government off the backs of the people, voting for tax cuts and slashing regulations. Help elect a pro-life defender of freedom who will strongly support Israel, vote to cut wasteful spending, and battle to repeal Obama's socialist agenda. Log on to ManierForCongress.com and donate today. That's MINIEAR for Congress.com. Paid for and authorized by the J.D. Manier for Congress Committee.
I'm J.D. Manier, candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives, Indiana District 7, and I approve of this message.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
This is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Sharon Engel and Rick Trader, and if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 10:10 this evening, please go to patriotsride.org at 5 p.m. right when we go off the air. If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of yesterday's show, place to find that would be cprworldwidemedia.com, and you can hear a rebroadcast of today's show tomorrow afternoon at vigilantlibertyradio.us. And our next guest is Stephen Busey. He's a graduate of the United States Military Academy and served America for 3 decades as an Army Special Services officer and a top Pentagon official performing the duties of military assistant to the Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld. Stephen studies and writes about cybersecurity and special operations as a senior research fellow for Defense and Homeland Security at the Heritage Foundation. Steve, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be back.
Great to have you with us. And Stephen, we've asked you to join us today to talk about a blog that was in the Heritage blog, the Foundry, about the DHF chief, Jet Johnson, confirms inflation of deportation numbers. Now, Stephen, I've always had questions in my mind about Barack Obama and an immigration policy. On one hand, he says that he's in favor of giving amnesty to the people that are here illegally. On the other hand, for a long time, we've been told that deportations of illegals are up. In fact, according to NPR, Barack Obama supports setting a path to citizenship for many illegal aliens. His administration deported a record 1.5 million of them in his first term. Yet Jet Johnson, Obama's new Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, said last week, admittedly, that a very large fraction of the deportations aren't really that, but instead of turnbacks at the border, and that Obama is taking the heat from the left, even though true deportations are actually down sharply. Steve, once again, this administration, in my opinion, and I wanted to get yours, but this administration is being caught in another lie, playing a shell game with the truth. What say you?
Oh, I stand behind the blog that we published. Those are the facts. Those are the words of Mr. Johnson, the new Secretary of Homeland Security. And, he admits that this administration is using a different way to count deportations. They're not counting just what we used to call the inside deportations, the ones where they come and find the people in Chicago or in Sacramento and say, hey, you're illegal, we're sending you home. They're counting everybody that they check at the border, people who are coming up to the actual crossing points, as well as people who are trying to, come in the open areas in between, and get turned back by the Customs and Border Protection folks. And they're counting them as deportations, which has never been done before. So the president's claim that, oh no, he's enforcing the law, he's deporting record numbers of people, but he's not. He's just counting differently, and he is not going after the people that are inside the country. He's ignoring the fact that they are breaking the law, and that's just wrong for the president of the United States to do.
Stephen, I also think he's not only counting differently, but he's redefining deportation, changing the definitions. And, Steve, I would think that if you would ask 100 people, what's it mean to deport someone, their idea was to take somebody who was here illegally, already established here illegally, and send them back to where they come from. Would I be right?
That's the kind of action that we used to refer to as interior deportation. And, that's the definition that has been used as far as anybody can remember until this administration. But because it fits the policy of this group to redefine that, to change the understanding, and to frankly do it in a deceptive way, because that way they can at least hold American citizens at arm's length and say, no, we're not ignoring the law like those Tea Party people are saying. We're really enforcing it. And at the same time, I can guarantee that there's probably been some winks and nods to the president's supporters on the left saying, look, I know we're saying we're deporting record numbers, but look, this is really not what's happening. We're taking care of you guys inside. And that kind of duplicity is just wrong in the chief executive.
Stephen, Representative John Culberson of Texas said that under the Obama administration, more than half of those removals that were attributed to ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, were actually the result of Border Patrol arrests. And I've got a chart here that states that in 2011, there were approximately 392,000 deportations. So this would be an indication that if Culberson is right, that 50% of these were actually turnbacks at the border, that the Obama administration has actually deported less than 200,000 in that year of 2011. Stephen, what I wanted to ask you about, with your military background, could you talk with us for a minute about the dangers of not protecting our border, letting our border be an open sieve for anyone who wanted to cross through it?
Well, I think all of your listeners, you don't have to be an expert to figure out that, that's a problem in today's world, that, given the dangers of between drugs, criminals, terrorists, who all would like to get into this country for their various, illegal or immoral acts, we have a border that doesn't look like the borders of most other countries in the world. Most other countries, you've got big giant fences, you got police, you got all this stuff. In our borders, you go, laterally from the actual official crossing point, and eventually the fence ends in just open space. We were blessed with the Canadians to our north and Mexico to our south, and that's served us pretty well up till now. But the world has changed. It's much more dangerous, and it does present a security threat to the United States of America. We have seen evidence of terrorist organizations connecting with the human traffickers on our southern border to move people across. Those coyotes, the bad guys who move, in some case peaceful potential workers, and in other cases drugs and that sort of thing, they'll do whatever they need to for money. So if a terrorist group is willing to pay them to move them across the border, they'll do that. And there's a great danger that people are going to come in here and do bad things. You look at the crime on our southwest border. You talk to the folks that live there; they're upset. And it's got nothing to do with racism. It has to do with actual levels of crime and uncertainty in those communities, because there's a lot of bad guys moving back and forth across the border. That's not about migrant workers. It's about the criminals who come with the migrant workers.
Stephen, again, I want to call on your background, your military background. What would your military background tell you about a president who refuses to protect our borders, enforce our laws, tells the Justice Department to ignore our laws, tells the Justice Department to sue states who have passed their own laws to protect their own borders?
I have a great deal of problem with that. This nation is founded on the rule of law, and for a president to blatantly just tell one of the other three branches of government I don't really give a darn what laws you pass. I'm going to follow the ones that I believe are right, and the heck with you guys. And I'm going to make sure the people who work for me don't enforce those laws. And if they do enforce them, I'm going to punish them, which is what he's done with ICE and CBP. And I mean, that's unconscionable and wrong. And, the American people, regardless of where you stand on immigration, should be screaming bloody murder that we have, our president, the head of the executive branch, who's decided he's a law unto himself, and he can follow whatever rules he wants, and if he doesn't like the rules, he'll either ignore them or make up his own with executive orders. It's just wrong. It's an abuse of the system, and so far he's getting away with it.
Hey, Steve, we got to take a break. Could you hold on through a break, please?
I sure will.
We appreciate that. We're speaking with Stephen Busey. He's with the Heritage Foundation, and Stephen is joining us to talk about a blog that was on the Foundry from the Heritage Foundation that DHF Chief Jed Johnson confirms that the numbers of deportations by the Obama administration have been fabricated. Please don't go away. Sharon Angle and I will be right back.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the Sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, fellow patriots. Welcome back once again to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Sharon Engel and Rick Trader, and we're speaking with Stephen Busey from the Heritage Foundation about the Department of Homeland Security Chief Jed Johnson confirms inflation of deportation numbers. Steve, thanks for holding through the break.
Sure thing. It's my pleasure.
Steve, in an interview with Telemundo, Obama said that it would be, quote, difficult to halt the deportation of immigrants living in this country illegally without the approval of Congress. But, Steve, isn't this coming out of Obama's mouth? And it doesn't seem like Obama has been successful at holding deportation. by bypassing laws, using the Justice Department, fighting states to adopt their own laws in illegal immigration. And he also stated that immigration rights advocates have pushed Obama to halt deportation through executive orders, again, bypassing Congress, especially if immigrants who haven't committed any serious crimes. And I bring this up, Stephen, because I have a question for you. Have you ever been accused of entering the United States illegally?
I have not, no.
Well, I have. As a pilot flying from Canada back into the United States, I have filed an AVCUS flight plan, which means advising customs I'm coming. That went to the wrong airport, and when I landed, I was arrested by Immigration Services and was told that I've made an illegal entry into the United States. I was subject to a $10,000 fine and 5 years in jail, and I'm a U.S. citizen. Stephen, doesn't that sound like a serious crime that I violated, if in fact I violated that law?
When you violate the law, there's supposed to be some punishment for it, certainly.
But it doesn't seem to me, Stephen, like people in Washington are looking at these people that are breaking our laws as serious violators of our laws. Would you say that?
No, I mean, I agree with you 100%. When President Obama, you know, his clarion cry or his mantra, if you will, is, you know, we've got to get these Republicans to pass bipartisan, comprehensive immigration reform. And what he means by comprehensive immigration reform is in large measure amnesty. And I got to tell you, amnesty is unfair. It's unfair to American citizens who then have to bear the burden of the cost of both implementing that amnesty and then suddenly in a massive jump add all these extra people to a lot of the domestic entitlement programs that the president's so fond of. It's unfair to the legal immigrants who have worked hard and done what they needed to do to get here legally, and it's unfair to all those people in other countries who would love to come here legally and are waiting their turn, who are going through the process, and instead it rewards people who have de facto broken the law and are now going to, instead of being punished for breaking the law, they're going to get the grand prize of being able to stay here for as long as they want, and eventually citizenship, I guess. So I hope that, you know, even though the president says it to demonize those said Republicans who are fighting this, I personally, as a citizen, think they're doing the right thing. You know, we should fix our immigration system so that it's more direct and simple for people following the law to do it successfully. But we don't need to have amnesty. That was a bad idea when we did it the last time. And then everybody said, boy, this is the last time we're ever going to do this. This just didn't work out the way we thought. And now we're about to do it again. And that's just not wise and frankly, is basically a slap in the face of all those people who live their lives on the correct side of the law in favor of those who have blatantly broken it.
Steve, you mentioned Congress, and there's a push by some Republican lawmakers who incidentally have Hispanic-sounding names like Marco Rubio, Mario Diaz-Balart, Raul Labrador, to push for this amnesty bill. Can this be seen as a conflict of interest, that they seem to be sympathizing with their Hispanic roots and backgrounds more than that of enforcing the laws of our country that they were elected and sworn in to uphold?
Oh, I don't know if it's a conflict of interest. I mean, they make their decision based on I guess what they think is the right thing to do. But you know, I mean, I'm the grandson of 4 immigrant grandparents. On my entire background is immigrant, but they came here legally, and they had a pretty tough life when they first got here. While I sympathize, with people who have relatives who might still be in another country who want to come here, there are processes to follow. And if you have, in the past, circumvented those processes, you should not get amnesty for that. You've broken the law. And while I don't want to throw everybody in prison, they ought to be found and asked to leave and inject themselves back into the system legally and properly and wait their turn, and then we'll be happy to have them back again.
Steve, I've been a little selfish here with your time because I do have a co-host, Sharon Engel, who would like to get into this conversation, has a question or two for you. Sharon?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Steve, for being on the show. My question is, why the grand deception? We've seen Obama lying about Obamacare. We've seen him lying about Benghazi. Now we see him lying about these numbers of deportations. What do you think? I know you can't get inside his head, but just from watching this deception after deception after deception, and now here we go again. What's the motivation behind this one? Why would he tell us he's deporting people that he's really not deporting? We all know he's for amnesty. Why doesn't he just come out and be who he is? What is behind the deception?
Other than if any one of us lied that much, we'd probably be considered a serial liar and a sociopath. I'm not saying the president's a sociopath. I'm not a psychologist, so I can't make that kind of determination. But he does seem to have a great willingness to sort of bend the truth so that it fits his narrative. And the only thing that I can guess is that he recognizes the anger that's growing across America among people who in some cases supported him, but in most cases didn't. And he's trying to throw a bone in this direction, or at least paint himself a different color, so that anger will not spill out and burn him. I think. So
you're thinking it's totally political then on his part, that the lying just is it's a political move. It's not something more nefarious or more egregious than just I just want to be liked and I want my politics, not to be something that other people have to fight with. I'm just trying to keep myself politically viable still. Is that the only motivation that you can see as politics?
Yeah, but when you take it to the levels that he's taking it, it's still pretty egregious. You don't have to believe that the president, is a sleeper agent trying to destroy America to not be terribly happy with him. We can't know what's going on in his head, but I can look at what he does, and I can tell you there's a heck of a lot of political motivation there that, he believes these policies are the right thing to do, and he believes he has the answers, and that the rest of us are all a bunch of numbskulls, and he's going to nanny state us into doing what he thinks is right for us and right for America, and unfortunately, he's profoundly wrong. And I just hope that we can minimize the damage that he does for the next couple of years. Until we can again step up and try and use our right to vote to change it.
Steve, before we let you go, just another quick fact here I wanted to point out to our audience. In 2011, 392,000 immigrants were removed from the United States, according to the Department of Homeland Security. Among them, 48% were deported for breaking U.S. laws, such as drug trafficking, driving under the influence, and entering the country illegally. So if half of them were deported for breaking new laws other than coming here illegally, and 50% were turned back at the border, this is pretty close to meaning, Stephen, that the only way someone can get deported from this country after coming in illegally was to break another law, after breaking law to come in.
That's pretty much it. That's the only way they can find you and even question you is you have to have already broken some other law. It's just a crazy system that is designed to support people who have already broken the law.
Hey, Steve, we got to run real quick. I want to thank you for joining us on the Conservative Commandos radio show. Stephen Busey from the Heritage Foundation. Please give out your website.
It's heritage.org, and you can find anything they need there.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Take care. God bless. All right, we are going to take a break, and if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 10:10 this evening, go to patriotsride.org. 5 p.m., switch on over to cprworldwidemedia.com. Hear yesterday's show. Sharon and I will be right back.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's A-B-A-C-O. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
Hello, I'm Reverend Carl Kelly, and I head up the Frederick Douglass Foundation of Indiana. President Obama's attacks on the Constitution continues to be aided and abetted by one of his trusted allies in Congress, ultra-liberal Democrat Andre Carson of Indianapolis, nationally known for his infamous racial rants against the Tea Party. I want to tell you about J.D. Manier. J.D. will be a representative for the people of the 7th District. J.D. Manier is a pro-growth Reagan conservative and is co-host of the Conservative Commandos radio show. He is asking you to join his army of supporters in order to defeat Carson and go to Washington to demand special prosecutors for Benghazi, the IRS, and other scandals. J.D. is interested in what's good for the people of the 7th District, not Nancy Pelosi. He will promote strong economic growth and jobs by getting the government off the backs of the people, voting for tax cuts and slashing regulations. Help elect a pro-life defender of freedom who will strongly support Israel, vote to cut wasteful spending, and battle to repeal Obama's socialist agenda. Log on to MinierForCongress.com and donate today. That's MINIEAR for Congress.com. Paid for and authorized by the J.D. Minier for Congress Committee.
I'm J.D. Minier, candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives, Indiana District 7, and I approve of this message.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
This is Sharon Engel along with Rick Trader here on Conservative Commandos radio show. We're broadcasting out of WNJC, downtown Philadelphia, on 1360 on your radio dial and across the internet. We're here interviewing our guests today, and our next guest is Michael W. Chapman, who's joined the CSNnews.com in 2007. He's worked as a writer for the McLaughlin Group, associate editor of Consumers Research magazine, associate editor of Human Events, editorial page editor of the Lehman News, journalism fellowship for the Phillips Foundation, editorial writer and national issues reporter for Investors Business Daily, and editorial director of the Cato Institute. Michael's reporting has been credited and published in the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Los Angeles Times, New York Post, The Drudge Report, The Mark Levin Show, Fox Nation, Washington Times, National Review, Associated Press, Scripps Howard, CBS, ABC, and Congressional Quarterly, among other outlets. Michael, welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Hello, thanks for having me on.
Well, it's certainly our honor. We've been looking at your post. Postal Service faces $100 billion, that's with a B, billion, in debts and unfunded benefits. What's going on? I'm paying almost $50 for a stamp these days, and yet they're $100 billion in debt?
Yeah, it's not too surprising, but what happened was last week, the Government Accountability Office, the GAO, published a report about the current status of the Postal Service, U.S. Postal Service, and its financial status. And the man who wrote the report testified before a House Oversight Subcommittee on where the Post Office stands right now. And as I reported, they have several programs in the Postal Service for their employees, those who are currently employed and those who are retired, but they don't have a lot of the money for it. And they are roughly roughly $100 billion, $99.8 billion, and that money is what they call an unfunded liability. They owe this money to these people, but they don't have it. And the money goes to, for example, the health coverage for the retired workers, the pension plans that they have. They also have a workers' compensation plan, and two different retirement plans for current and retirees, some people who were hired before 84 and some people after. Then they have some outstanding debt. They have like $15 billion in debt. So right now they're $100 billion in the hole, and they've been in the hole, as you've probably reported in the past, for a number of years. The report and what they testified to is that going back to even the year 2007, they were $61 billion in the hole. And now, 6 years later, at the end of 2013, they're up to $100 billion in the hole. So, that's a lot to digest, but basically they have a bunch of unfunded liabilities that they have promised to pay out or projected to pay out to their current employees, to their retired employees, and to ongoing things such as, workers' compensation, plus the debt that they have. They borrowed money to keep paying some of this stuff, and that's where they stand. And you know, I'm not surprised, given the way that the Postal Service has operated over the last 25 years. But that's what the numbers are showing right now.
Well, it seems incredible to me. You know, the postage just keeps going up and up and up and up. What's going on with mail these days? Are we not mailing as much? What's causing this to happen, that they're going further in debt? Is it because there's not enough money obviously coming in, but or maybe it's because of the way they're spending their money? What do you think is the problem here?
Well, I wouldn't presume to know all there is to know about the inner workings of the post office, but I could just say in general a couple things, and some of this is mentioned in the GAO report and what the gentleman testified to. I mean, this is a huge, massive federal operation that's been going on for, you know, I mean, Congress has said by the Constitution it gives the federal government the authority to establish post offices, but the government, the federal program, the U.S. Postal Service, has ballooned over the years, and it's a massive federally run program, and there's a lot of waste and inefficiency that goes along with that, and then entrenched interests that don't necessarily want to change as technology changes, as technology has changed in the last 25 years. As the report, you know, notes, for example, the regular first-class mail that, you know, folks regularly send, the volume that the Postal Service carries on that has dropped about, I think they reported 37% in the last few years, and they expect it to continue dropping in terms of, you know, mailing those first-class letters and carrying those letters about 5 to 6% every year going forward. Well, if they're at a 37% drop now, you know, they're going to be carrying 50% less in just a few years. And part of that, you know, is the technology. You know, the world has changed. A lot of people are using email, or you know, Twitter or Facebook, or, you know, telephones and other devices. And you have a case of, you know, the changes in the world affecting an entrenched government program that can't really keep up with the times. And you look at some of the private sector entities that do carry mail, you know, as FedEx or UPS, and I think it's IHL, and there's some others. Yes, they do charge more, you know, to deliver, you know, a letter, a small package, or even a larger package. But they don't have a federal budget to rely on to begin with.
Or the taxpayer to bail them out, Michael.
Or yeah, exactly. They don't have the taxpayers and Congress to bail them out. So I mean, I always ask this question when
you know, Michael, it's really like if this was a private business, they would be out of business. You know,
exactly.
Let's face it. Hey, Michael, we're up against a break. Could you hold through our break?
Sure, absolutely.
All right, you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Engel and Rick Trader, coming to you from the CCR studios, that of WNJC 1360 and around the world on the internet. And if you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show at 10:10 this evening, go to patriotstride.org. Now, you can also hear a rebroadcast of yesterday's show at 5 p.m. this evening at cprworldwidemedia.com. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show tomorrow afternoon, go to vigilantlibertyradio.us. Please don't go away. Right on the other side, Sharon and I are going to continue our interview with Michael Chapman from CNSnews.com.
They say I'm nasty, but
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And this is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Sharon Engel and Rick Trader, coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, and around the world on the internet via our internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And our guest this segment is Michael Chapman from CNS News, and we're discussing his article, Postal Services Faces $100 billion in debts and unfunded benefits. Michael, thanks for holding through the break. We appreciate your time.
Sure, my pleasure.
Michael, you know, when you were speaking with Sharon during the first segment, and you're talking about what the Postal Service owes, $48 billion in retired health care, $17 billion in workmen's compensation, $19 billion in federal pension plans, $500 million for federal pension plan for workers hired after 1984, $15 billion in outstanding debts. You know what it reminded me of, Michael? Reminded me of General Motors. It reminded me of General Motors, and it also reminded me of how General Motors, or the airlines, were run by the unions and were run out of business by the unions. Is the same thing happening here, Michael? Is the tail wagging the dog?
I think you're right when you said the unions are sort of driving themselves out of business. I think that's what you're seeing with the U.S. Postal Service. I think that's a fair assessment, and I would argue just in generally that big government programs that live off the taxpayer dime and aren't really accountable in the real world with real deadlines and real budgets, they eventually implode. Mm-hmm. But they might last a long time and hurt a lot of people down the road, but they eventually implode. And the question is, is the government going to step in and bail out the Postal Service? And to what degree are the unions and the way they run things at the Postal Service going to change? And, Congress is going to have to decide on that, and that's going to be a big fight, once again. But before the break, you mentioned, I think we were talking briefly about the examples of FedEx and UPS in the private sector. And, I always ask this question when this topic comes up is, if your life depended upon it, that a letter had to be delivered overnight, your life depended upon it or your life savings depended upon it, who would you send the letter with? Mm-hmm. Would you give it to FedEx or would you give it to the Postal Service? And I think most of the people I talk to always say, I'd give it to FedEx.
Hey, Michael, another thing. Let's talk about what the Postal Service is doing. They're losing money. So what they do is they raise their rates, And then they cut their services. They close post offices. And they can get away with it because they're a monopoly that gives bad service. But by law, you know, our limits, our options are limited. And, you know, let me give you an example, Michael, if you will. Over the past few days, I've had the opportunity to deal with 3 branches of the federal government. One was the Social Security Administration, where I sat on the phone for a half an hour to get a simple answer, never got the simple answer, ended up calling the insurance company that I'm with now. And then yesterday I had a simple question for the Internal Revenue Service. I sat on the phone for a half an hour through all this stupid elevator music, through all the stupid little messages that told me that my phone call was important. At the end of the half an hour, I was hung up on. To get an answer, I had to call H&R Block, and I was on the phone for about 30 seconds to get an answer. And recently, I went to the post office to buy a stamp. Had 5 people in front of me, waited in line for 20 minutes with 5 people in front of me. And yet, Michael, this is the same bunch that people want to run to for their health insurance coverage. I think we need to go in the opposite direction, Michael. Not only do we have to maintain privatization with our health care, but it's time to privatize the Postal Service. I would rather see the post offices set up in Walmart.
Yes, I don't disagree with you, and I think the point you made about the healthcare industry is quite correct. I mean, if the Postal Service is this much in debt, and the services vary all over the place, and the quality of service you get, and what they offer, and the price, and the bailouts, you know, imagine what's going to happen as government takes more and more control over your health care. They ration the services at the post office, and they charge you more for them. Well, that's exactly what they're doing with health care. They charge you more for them, and they start rationing the services, and they're grossly inefficient. And you know, I agree with you 100%. I mean, these types of services, I mean, we can demonstrate that they help the consumers and provide consumers efficiently and cost effectively. In the private sector, you know, government should not be involved with them anyway, as far as I'm concerned. There's very little that the government should be doing besides the military, national defense, government, you know, and the president, and then spending money on those few things. Other than that, you know, the private sector has done historically a good job. For example, I mean, you look, for example, just to not to go too far afield, but the Department of Energy, you know, didn't exist prior to Jimmy Carter. But somehow we all got our energy, we all got our gasoline, we all got our fuel, we got our coal, whatever it was.
And by the way, that along with the EPA is really messing up our energy production. You know, go figure that. Hey, Michael, on the other line, I do have my co-host Sharon Engel, and I wanted to swing it back over to her.
Mm-hmm.
Michael, I just want you to give us some solutions now. I know that you're not the fix-it man, but we do have an audience of grassroots folks that say, you know, it's time to get involved. I want to get involved. I want to be part of the solution to some of these government problems. What's something that we can do? I know Rick and I have talked a lot on the show about ways that we can use our buying dollars in order to influence policies in the private sector. Is there any way that our buying dollars can affect, say, the postal system? Should we not be using the postal system? Should we be using the postal system? What ways can we, as we the people, kind of interject ourselves? We're paying for this service, and yet, obviously, we're not getting much bang for our buck.
That's right. We are paying for it. It is the American people's money that's being squandered and wasted. But at the other hand, on the other side, you know, the technology is outpacing and outrunning the Postal Service, and it will always outpace a massive government-run program. So, I mean, in terms of solution, I mean, you're already seeing it. People are turning more and more and using these new alternatives to deliver messages, letters, information, share information with each other, communicate with each other. And the technology is moving so fast now. I don't know what's going to be here, 6 months from now or a year from now in terms of delivering information to people. So that's something that's already happening, and people are already choosing that because it's in the marketplace. I mean, the government didn't invent the iPhone or email. I mean, these are services that the private sector invented and offers to people. So those are choices that people can make, and unfortunately, yes, they're spending our taxpayer money, but they're imploding at the same time, and I think they're being overrun by the technology and by people choosing just not to use those services anymore. But in terms, what's the solution to, the grander problem? I don't have all the answers, but I would recommend that, people read Mark Levin's book on having a convention and getting the states involved, and it's called The Liberty Amendments. I recommend that book highly. Also his books on liberty and tyranny and Ameritopia, and Mark talks and writes a lot about how do we solve these problems, because a lot of people, millions of Americans are angry and upset with the economy and the future of the country, and especially for their children. And I think Mark provides more precise and clear and well-argued solutions on how to address those things. But in general, I would argue also that, stick to your guns and support those candidates for office that are truly conservative, that are true believers, and are not going to change as the political winds blow in Washington. There are very few of those, but they are around. There are some good people who are in Congress and who are running. But also, I don't believe all the answers are in Washington or in the hands of politicians. I believe they are in the hands of the American people. And just to fall back again on business and technology, I mean, that's where the solutions are for people. And supporting the private sector, supporting better education for your own kids, and getting them away from the government top-down solution in any way possible. If you can do it at the local level or the state level, those are things in general that I would advocate, because I don't believe right now. I mean, it is not going to be solved in Washington D.C. Congress is going to break and fracture before these problems are solved, which is why I'm optimistic and encouraged by the Tea Party movement. And
hey, Michael, sorry to interrupt, but we're right up against the end of our show. I want to thank you for joining us here today on the Conservative Commandos radio show. And I always say CNS News is our source for news. It should be everybody's. But where could people go to read your article?
It's www.cnsnews.com, or they can just go to Google and search for Postal Service and cnsnews.com, and it'll come up. I think it's one of the top items.
All right, Michael, I want to thank you for joining us today on the Conservative Commandos radio show. Sharon, I also want to thank you for sitting in as my co-host. I'd like to thank our other guests, Bridget Johnson, Steve Busey, and also our most recent guest, Michael Chapman. But if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of yesterday's show at 5 o'clock, switch over to cprworldwidemedia.com. But for right now, we're out of time. We got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless. And we'll see you tomorrow on the radio.
Thank you for listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show. Huge thanks to our co-hosts, contributors, patrons, callers, and our friends at WNJC 1360 and WIFI 1460, where we broadcast live every Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern and 2 to 4 p.m. Central. Look for us on the internet at www.ccrshow.com. Until next time, we are the Conservative Commandos radio show. where the newsmakers go to be heard.